Okay, I think I think this little thing up here says we're live on YouTube, so I'm gonna go with that and believe it. Wait, let me just see. Yep. Okay. I'm Jane Frizzell, and this is Basic Military Riding. And the starting now, Tuesdays, 3 p.m., I'm going to be here and we are going through, it's the equivalent, oh darn, I put it in the other room. Shoot. It's the equivalent of Saumur 1912 and Fort Riley 1935. I don't have the covers of either of those here. I stupidly cleaned up, and next week I will. Anyway, we are going to go through those manuals, and which are identical actually, because I'm not sure of the exact year, sometime after 1912, but right thereabouts. It might have been right after World War I, though. I should check that. Saumur gave America, Fort Riley, its flat work instructions. And so our US flat work instructions are a translation of Saumur 1912. And the translation was done by, I'm pretty sure I'm right about this, Lieutenant John A. Barry, who was a Fort Riley rider. And he is known for saying this quote, to take action when action is required and to do nothing when there is nothing to be done. These are the marks of a horseman. He was fluent in both French and English. And so he is the person who made the translation. Now, there are little boo-boos that will come up that I will point out as we go along. I have made several lectures on this material in advance, but now, starting July 29th, 2025, I am committing to being here on Tuesdays at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time to get us through the sections of the Fort Riley manual that I have identified through many years of knowing it and teaching it and training it and also having the manual. I have sorted out about a year's worth of sections that we need to go through first. That's what we're doing. Now, listen, you probably want to turn this off because you just want to see riding and get to the riding and get to the cantering and get to flying changes. This is the thing, and it's not going to be easy to convince everyone. This stuff is, it cannot be, that we can't put a dollar amount on it. It is so important. It will, if you stick with riding for any time, or riding is at all important to you, what these guys set forth in these preliminary sort of theory and required basic knowledge chapters, it's just invaluable. And so I have the same urge. I am a horse girl and a rider, and I am prone to being impetuous and skipping ahead and wanting to get it done and going fast. I learned the hard way. And we are therefore going to take our time and make sure that this is all set forth really well, that we've reviewed it together, and that we all know, have some good basic knowledge before we ever set foot in the arena. Last time I was on one of these live streams, I can remember myself, I was kind of like chomping the bit to get through section 22. But I've been thinking about this for the last few days, knowing that I was going to come here on Tuesday. And I was like, do I need to do a review of 22 or should I go on to section 23? I'm going to do a review of section 22 first, because it's really important. But where we are, we're in the Fort Riley manual. Some of you have the white workbook. It is section 23. It's pages 170 and 171, but in the workbook, it's pages 10 and 11. The workbook is the sections that I've culled, put into a convenient workbook printed out with pages for notes, and in a really good order to digest the material. Okay, I'm just explaining stuff for people that haven't been here. And that's going to have to always be the case. I want to go, section 23 is called Principal Factors in Training. Section 22 starts the chapter on training and is just titled General. And this is part 2 of Fort Riley that is referencing the education of the horse. Section 22 is so loaded. So before I go into 23, I'm going to do a quick review of 22. In 22, we are given in the first paragraph a very clear literal description of what the finished horse that we are going to make is. Exact, light, energetic, sensitive to the leg, light to the hand. It then goes on to make a very, very crucial, but I can't tell you how frequently overlooked distinction. And that is the distinction between the starting phase and the training phase, also sometimes called the breaking in stage and the education phase. Breaking is not training. Breaking is starting. My business and the program I operate starts in the education phase. I send young horses to experts. Okay, but I just want you to be very aware of that distinction that's usually overlooked. And most of the cowboy clinicians that are going around the country making money and buying their new like mobile homes or whatever the hell they have, with the trailers with the living quarters that are all decked out. Those people, they only know starting. They do not know the education. And what's happened with this commercialization of the horse world is that the colt starting experts, because they aren't educated themselves, they aren't installing the baseline knowledge that started colt would need if he's going to continue on his education. And so there are generations of horses that are like kindergartners that are never fluent or literate. And I don't like that. It's very bad. So you want your horses to become exact, light, energetic, with immediate response from slight indications, understanding the rider's intentions, liking them, and being sensitive to the leg and light to the hand. That is what the education is going to deliver. Education in this case, in this textbook, is synonymous with training, not synonymous with starting or breaking. Training is the breaking phase is going to acclimatize the horse and give him a start in his conditioning, especially in his wind, and just starting to get, a little bit more loose and moving around. Some of them are little schlubs and some of them are frantic basket cases. But fresh air and moving around, they learn to be bridled, they learn to be saddled, they start to learn the lunge line, da. But their real education comes next. That's what we're talking about. So this training, this education that we're going to impart to the horse is based on sound doctrine. The training follows a method, and the training must conform to both the method and the doctrine. And there are rules in these doctrines, principles, and methods. The primary principles and doctrines that we operate from, or that all of these, all basic military operates from, is forward straight riding, horses that go in collection back to front. This will come up again. And one of this program, many of the rider trainers who train in this system and conform themselves to these instructions, they love this line. A group of principles whose validity has been established by reason and justified by experience. So these are logical principles, and then the methods are logical according to those principles. And these have been justified by experience that is over centuries and many civilizations. It's very well vetted. Okay, what is the objective of the training? The development of a calm, forward-moving, straight, and manageable horse. That's what we're doing. The method is going to sometimes vary according to many, many factors that are listed out here. You can read them themselves. The progression of the training, and those are variables, are sort of like moving parts, like the weather. I mean, there really are a lot of them, and paying attention to what's written, but this is a review of 22. The progressions of the training as suggested here do not include manner of execution. So in this book that we are going through, there are not exact exercises. For exact exercises with instructions, we can refer to Major Lindgren's exercises. They all match. All of the cavalry men in and from the US and Australia all would meet in Western Europe to train together and compete. And all of this information is identical, the same, but just in a little bit different order, in different language, in the manuals from the various nations, excluding none. And yeah, and you should know the French manual, which is this one for Fort Riley, and the German manual. Then you're going to have the world pretty much covered, because South America, for example, except for Brazil, follows France, Chile, Colombia, and Argentina follow Germany. You can surmise why. Okay, so these figures that we're talking about, Podolsky has a lot of them written out too. They're very excellent. The training value of these exercises depends on the manner in which they're executed. So the rider has to understand the objective of the calm, forward, moving, straight, and manageable horse. What does forward and straight really mean? And have the skill to impart to the horse that the horse understands, wants to do it, is super quick, is super instant, and light to the leg, and quick on the leg and light on the hand. So it goes on to point out that one rider may execute all the figures by, just going 1, 2, 3, and another rider working on the same figures, but with these clearly defined objectives and using his natural aids towards the attainment of the objective, will train / educate the horse very quickly. So you can have 2 riders riding the same thing, and only one of them is legit gymnasticizing the horse. You need to be that one. Okay, that is my review of section 22. On to section 23. And I am going to slow down. Section 23 is divided into 4 sections: A, B, C, and D. Section 23 is titled Principal Factors in Training. So we are going to inspect and consider the primary factors in training and how they affect training and planning. It's not all of them, but these are the principal factors in training. A is the instructor and the ability of the instructor. B is the rider and the ability of the rider. C is the work, which we could call the figures or exercises. Any method of training not based on the conditioning of the horse. Wait, I read that wrong. The conditioning of the horse is really important for the development of a WME, working military equine. Any method that doesn't deliver a better conditioned horse is not a military method. And this is important. It's important for these dressage people and show jumper people that never do anything else. Arena work is meant to make the horse prepared to ride out with no fence line, no arena walls. Arena work is intended to make horses rideable out in the wild. Okay. The fourth factor, D, is time. I want to make a distinction here, and I think we're only going to really be able to talk about A and B, possibly only A. But A is the instructor and B is the rider, the instructor or the trainer. This is another distinction that we must make. There are professional riders who do not necessarily train. They ride the horses under a trainer, and the trainer is telling the rider what needs to happen with the horse, and the rider, like a good horse, executes what he hears, does what he's told. This idea of a trainer and a rider and a horse, trainer makes the call, and that you can have two people in the arena. You can have the trainer in the arena and the rider on the horse, and it's not a lesson. It's work. It's a trainer telling a qualified rider what to do, because even a very excellent rider, there is no replacement for an eye on the ground. There's just no replacement for it. One thing, I was a rider for trainers for a long time during my career, especially in the early part of my career. In fact, there was about probably more than a dozen years that I didn't ride much without supervision. And I don't mean someone helping me. I mean someone telling me, do this, get him this way, make his neck a centimeter longer, 2 inches in front of the, like, go up 2 inches, now make that section as 2 centimeters longer, like really definite where they want. And so the rider has to be skilled. The instructor, now we are going to talk about an instructor trainer here, according to this book. How long have I been talking? The instructor, the ability of the instructor, as well as that of the rider, plays an important part in training. The instructor should possess profound knowledge, not surface knowledge, profound knowledge of the horse and of the theoretical and practical science of equitation. Science being a tested knowledge base. As we know, we are using one that has been established by reason and justified by experience over many centuries. The instructor, trainer, should have a thorough understanding of the method of training. In addition, if his explanation is not sufficient, maybe he speaks a different language verbal language. He must be able to demonstrate in a skillful manner any point in question. So this is one reason why having base knowledge before we are in the arena is important. There are a lot of instructors these days who even admit to having imposter syndrome, and that is something that one should, I mean, that scares me. But you know who I think it would scare more would be an insurance adjuster. Don't say stuff like that. And if you don't know, don't do it and don't say it. Okay, but let's listen to this language they're saying here. This instructor or trainer has profound knowledge. To me, that means like pretty bottomless. Profound knowledge of the horse and of the theoretical and practical science of equitation. At the very least, in my opinion, that means knowing, where's my fingers? I want my fingers. Knowing, I can't, there I did it. Knowing, being able to ride, and practically having memorized. You should sort of have, it should be in your mind. For just to teach beginner lessons, say, you better know Pony Club, D and C perfect, maybe even B. I mean, quote the manual. And I can tell you, there are many, even team level riders that don't know the Pony Club. You've got to know Pony Club. And I would say you should really know the American cavalry, very basic, wonderful instructions. The most germane is only about 80 pages. And so that's really not all that much to commit to making damn sure you know it. I heard that Dave Goggins, well, he says he's dyslexic and stupid, whatever. And he wanted to go to the Special Forces dive school. And part of the entry into dive school, and that is tested, is the dive school manual. And so Dave Goggins wrote this thing on Facebook. I forgot where I saw it. Yeah, I couldn't fucking read. So a year and a half before I was going to go to dive school, I made myself rewrite the dive manual like 10 times because I'm stupid, and that made me know it. So here's someone, and it was 1,000 pages. That's the punchline, I forgot. 1,000 pages. He knew he had to know it, and he knew he was not very swift at digesting information like that. So he gave himself a plan to know it. You guys have to know this. You have to know the requirements for the rider's seat, chapter 2. You have to know and understand collection and engagement of the hindquarters. You have to understand the displaceable forehand. You have to know and understand the four natural aids, which is the language of equitations. It's a language of sensations, and how that is imparted to the horse through the association of sensations. You have to know that. And what I'm talking about is about 80 total pages. What Goggins was talking about was about 1,000 pages. So I know someone who used to run the dive school in Key West. I sent him an email. Is the dive school manual really 1,000 pages? Because I wanted to share about that. So guess what I did? I checked my facts. I wrote to this guy. He ran the dive school. He would know the answer. Guess what he said back? He said, no, it is 991 pages. And he sent me a PDF of it. That is profound knowledge. That is what, if you think you're going to stand in the middle of arena and there is kind of like, people get a buzz or even I was going to say something more graphic and I won't. Standing in the arena, they get off on it. And they don't know what's in the dive manual. If you don't know what's in the dive manual, you're gonna drown. But if you don't know what's in what I listed out today about the information that needs to be imparted for safe and wonderful fun riding, don't stand in the arena and pretend that you do. Because they're not going to drown, but the horses know. The horses know you don't know. Okay, we'll go on to the rider tomorrow. I think that's plenty. You have to know this stuff. And I'm not going to I'm going to go through it with you, but you are the one. And if you think I'm boring or this is boring and you just want to go to some shyster cowboy who's going to let you do shit like gallop around before you're ready, just think about that. It's like, what is that? What is that the equivalent? It is just, it's so sleazy and it's so selfish. So this might not be very, I do want to scare the wrong people away from here. I want the people who want the profound knowledge. It's only about 80 pages. It's just not that much. The horses will know if you don't know it. And that is more likely to end up in embarrassment or an injury for either a person or a horse, or some sort of chronic pain for the horse, but no one's going to drown. And that is one of the primary problems for horses and this industry, is that not knowing sneaks through. See you next week, and we're going to talk about section 23B, the rider. That's you.